Welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. I'm Jason Tucker.
And I'm Jesse Skiffington.
We're two pastors in the trenches who are passionate about church health for greater gospel impact.
We share the ups and downs of ministry, strategies that worked for us,
and some that didn't.
Best practices and practical tools for church leadership.
The goal, to help all of our churches flourish. Let's get started. See another sunrise, sing a little song. Welcome back to the Reclaim Leader. Happy summer, everyone. I hope that you've had at least a little bit of time so far to put your feet in the sand or go for a hike or do something that doesn't involve anything to do with church, because, man, there's always stuff to do. It's like you'll work as many hours as you decide to work. So anyway, it's good to be back. Good to be talking about church. Thanks so much, everybody who's been listening and following along with us. And we had a really good time in our 400th episode celebration. That was really cool, and hope that you have all been utilizing those tools. The church rechurching toolkit is so good, and hope that you found that to be a useful resource. And today, Jesse, we're talking about hiring, which, man, I really could have used about 700 podcast episodes before I ever hired anybody in my life.
Yeah. It's so like when we go through a stretch where we're not looking for someone, I'm like, this is so nice, because hiring is a challenge. I mean, I don't remember the seminary class on how to hire well. Maybe it was there. I didn't go that day if it was, but it's a challenge, man. To kind of be in our world, we kind of function in a couple of ways. We're pastor and head of staff, or senior pastor and head of staff. And that head of staff role, even if you have awesome personnel people that you're working with, a lot of times the pressure ends up kind of being on you to not only shape a position, it depends on kind of where it is in the organization, but then also to be a part of the search process and a part of the decision making. And you and I know from experience that hiring, the stakes are so high when it comes to who we hire and how they fit with our team and all that. So you said, hope you're getting a chance to put your feet in the sand. Sometimes when it comes to hiring, I want to put my head in the sand and just hope that it all works
out. That's fair. I resonate with that.
Yeah. So today we're talking tips to hire better. Probably things that most of us have heard before, reminders, hopefully, and stuff that comes out of you and our experience in hiring and when it's worked well, and maybe the times when it hasn't gone so well or we've really struggled with that. And it matters a lot. And we talked about before we hit record, just the stakes really are high to find the kind of folks that are going to make our team better, are going to build our team, that are going to be a fit with our vision, mission, and direction. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until they're already there. So how do we get out ahead and make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to get that hire right?
Yeah. And in case anybody's watching on our YouTube channel right now, just so you don't think Jesse is crazy, we did record 2 episodes in one day. He doesn't wear his True North VBS shirt every time.
It's a good shirt. I wouldn't mind wearing it for, maybe this will be my podcast uniform from now on, Jason. Every single
True North.
True North. That's Jesus is our true north.
That's it. I love it. But this is a very visually appealing.
When we're hiring new staff,
title.
We can trust Jesus.
I love it.
That's right.
This is a great podcast title visually. 404 4 tips to hire better. I mean, that's just really.
It's forced. Yeah. Really is there a biblical significance for the number 4?
Probably.
I
don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about some things that probably we already know, but then you and I kind of just picking through some of our own experiences. But the first thing is just really, as you're thinking about making a hire, as much as you can, create a really clearly defined role. I think when it's been hard for us, or hard maybe for a staff team member, is when the position is muddy and they're not exactly sure what success looks like or what's expected of them. And we aren't quite so sure either. And we're just hoping they do some ministry stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've made that mistake before, because you just are like, I know there's lots of things that need to be done. You seem like a capable person. Let's plug you in. And it doesn't set them up for success. And I imagine it can be a frustrating experience. So how do you define the role clearly? And what are some of the things that you want to include in that? And so you kind of had as we're looking for the who part of that, the competence, chemistry, and character piece, we want to get to some of those things. But I think you need a pretty strong why. Why does this position exist?
Yeah.
What's it for? And that's connected to the vision and mission, and hopefully the vision, mission, and values of your church, if you have those. But where does it tie in? Why does it need to exist, and what's its purpose? So we're looking at a few different roles right now that we're getting ready to hire. That's why this is on my mind. And one of the things that we worked really hard on is that kind of top line purpose statement, or the objective of the role, and how it fits in with our vision and mission. And so, thinking through that, why does this position need to exist for the mission? I think at least gets you off to a good start.
Yeah. And I think too, the whole part about figuring out what the clarity around the job role is huge, because if you don't name the expectations, the person barely has a shot to meet whatever expectations are in your head that you haven't even articulated
or whatever. Yeah.
It makes it really hard
right.
for it to work when it's not clear.
Right. So clearly defined role has a why aspect to it, but then it also has, depending on the position, but a lot of times it needs a pretty strong what aspect to it too. So what are the things? What are the expectations? What are the key, tasks and responsibilities in this position? And I've kind of shifted my thinking on this. Early on, I wanted people to come in under the why statement of their position and then kind of creatively work out the how they're going to do it and the what part. And I think there needs to be freedom for people to make it their own and shape it. But I found that when we can be clear about the what, like what's expected of me, what am I going to spend my time doing? And that actually is creates something of a better experience for someone coming on to the team.
Yeah.
They know what it is they're going to be doing. And even if that changes over time, because they kind of, tweak things and make it their own, at least initially, they're going to have a clear picture of what needs to be done under that why for this position.
Yeah.
So the what piece, so you get the why, a clearly defined purpose, a clearly defined what, and then the who part, we always do our best to include kind of key attributes or qualities that we're looking for in a person. And we include things like can affirm and support and commit to Marine View's vision, mission, values, stuff like that to make sure it's a good culture fit. And I liked your 3 C's here as you're looking at people. Competence. Can they, are they a capable person? Or do they have the chemistry with the rest of the team as you're having conversations? Does it seem like a fit? And then the character, the character reference aspect. Are they someone who is going to do what they say they're going to do and has the integrity to follow through and do those kinds of things? So the who part is crucially important.
Yeah.
But I think it needs to be connected in with a really clearly defined why and what.
Yeah. And then I would just a couple of things to add on to that about who is, and these are all just from mistakes that we made in hiring that we didn't figure out. One is just make sure you're clear on, are you hiring a leader or a task-oriented doer?
Yep.
And make sure that if you are hiring a leader, that you drill down on their experience actually leading.
Yep. That's really good.
So I think that's really important. We've missed that before, and we've accidentally put doers in leadership positions and they struggle.
Or leaders that are ready to lead, but don't kind of like running
off.
Do anything. Right. So that's so spot on. A lot of times we'll use a tool like 6 Types of Working Genius is one that we use.
Oh, that's a good one.
Staff. And it just kind of gives you something of a snapshot of how they're wired. And then you'll be more set up for success if you bring them on. If they're more of a thought follow through kind of person, give me the assignment and I'll make it happen. Or are they more of a dreamer and I want to invent stuff and hand it off to other people and kind of get your eyes on that early on. And I think another way to get at that too, as you're clearly defining a role, and who are we looking for? We're looking for a visionary leader, right? To come up with new ideas, or we're looking for a task-oriented person who has a track record of follow through, or whatever, making, because then people go, oh, that's not me. I'm more this than that, or something like that. So it kind of sets them up for success that way.
And I love that this came from Michael Hyatt, the whole idea that make sure you hire people that come with their own batteries.
Yeah, that's so good.
Self-motivated
self-starters, include, I think, that kind of language there to set those expectations. And then one thing that I think you and I have both learned along the way is to ask experience-based questions. Tell me about a time when you...
Oh my gosh, that's gold right there.
Right? And you're not going to get to every possibility, but especially if it's someone outside of your organization that you don't really know yet, those experience types of questions and even drilling down with a reference check and saying, tell me about a time when the person we're talking to, you saw them do fill in the blank. And if something doesn't immediately come to mind, I don't know, maybe they just forgot or something, but probably it tells you something that you need to know. So for us, we're thinking about things like, tell me about a time when someone in the church complained to you and they were complaining about how bad Jason's sermon was this past week. And how did you deal with that? What did you say to them? What kind of words did you use? Or
you talk to my wife again? Is that
That's right, Karen, tell us about a time. No, not really. But like just going to those experience-based things, like tell me about a time when you led a team to accomplish a task, and what was that like for you, and what are some of the things you learned as you led that team? So getting to those experience-based questions can help. And I think if you can, in your defining the role as you begin to circulate it out there, the job description, having some of those who kinds of attributes clearly defined as well. This is a doer kind of position. This is a leader kind of position. This is a dreamer kind of position. So anyway, just for step one, tip one, just spend a lot of time getting clear about the role on the why, the what, and the who aspects of it. And I think that's going to actually help a ton when you actually get into the conversations.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So number two, this is a challenge we face. Like, we're so excited about a new position or whatever. And then it's like, well, how do we let people know? How do we get the word out? So tip number two is just figure out how to get the word out. How do you do it? How do you let everybody know that it's going on? And so for us, depending on the kind of the scope of the position, if it's full-time, we're going to do a much broader marketing kind of deal, because those are kinds of positions that people would move to a different part of the country for potentially. But if it's a part-time role, it might change the scope of how far you get the word out. But typically we're going to want to use our already existing networks, just any of them, pastors that of different churches in the area, denominational resources if you have those kinds of things or whatever, and just kind of trying to find as many avenues to get the word out. Facebook, Instagram, use your website, do an announcement on Sunday morning. And our slide, I think, for some open positions right now said, we're looking for awesome people. So, if someone in your family, or if that's you yourself, come have a conversation with us. We'd love to explore some of the openings here at Meridian View right now. So really do that work of getting the word out, because it's so disheartening when you have a position and you can't wait to see it filled and it's crickets and you're not getting applications. And I'm hearing that from some of my pastor friends right now. There's open positions in their church and they're really struggling to generate traction around even applicants for those positions. So I don't know, what are some of the ways you guys get the word out there at Tower Hill?
I think that's definitely a way. And we also, whatever our kind of hiring team is doing, like if it's a big position we're looking for a full-time youth director or full-time pastor or something, usually a team involved.
Yep.
And the sort of thing that we'll do is we'll just tell everybody, just go out and reach out to your networks. Mm-hmm. Just start putting it out there and see if there are any bites. And then I think if you end up, again, in your congregation, if you're just like, well, here's a position. Here's the challenge that we have with that, is that sometimes the risk is you put it out to the congregation, you have congregation members say, oh, that's me, and it's not them.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you've maybe potentially hurt some feelings that they weren't accept, especially if they know you've been looking for 2 years and
that's right.
And they put their name in. Like,
that's that tough. Takes us to point number 4. Don't hire someone to spare somene's feelings. Don't do it. But you're right. It is a risk to put it out there. I was just talking to someone today that's like, you know what? I think so-and-so might be interested in the position, this part-time position. And I'm like, I hope they're not, because I'm probably not gonna, it's probably not going to go well for them. So, but you do risk stepping on toes or hurting feelings. And I think that's where, again, clearly defining the role helps a lot, and who it is that we're looking for and the type of experience we're looking for, but also just that, we're really discerning about the right person, and you're discerning and we're discerning. And so if it's not you, it's not a reflection of how we feel about you. It's just about our, kind of what we're trying to do with this particular role. And So it's just having some kind but honest conversations with people. But yeah, kind of there's a risk aspect to that, especially if you're promoting within. And I was actually talking with another pastor. We're both looking for some worship help right now. And we were talking about how some positions are particularly challenging to fill. And you just look and look and look. And there's a trust aspect to it too, that at the right time in the right way, God's going to bring that person in. And I think I can't remember. Do we have Larry Kruger on the podcast way a long time ago?
Yeah, we did.
He was our worship director here for 11 years. And then he had the audacity to move to South Carolina to be closer to family. And I'm like, come on, man.
Killing me, Larry.
Yeah. So anyway, he's awesome. And I'm glad he's where he needs to be. But it was one of those things we've been looking for 6-7 months. All volunteer team leading us in worship, and they were doing great, but they were wearing out. And we thought we were never going to find the right fit. We'd interviewed some people and just couldn't find that right person. And so we went through the Christmas season with no staff for worship. And so we called it Simple Christmas. One Sunday, I even sang Christmas carols a cappella in front of the congregation. Like that's the lowest probably point in my ministry, Jason. It wasn't good. I know you're a guitar guy and
That's
you like
just how you drew it up.
But man, singing In Excelsis Deo with the congregation, glory, like it's not a good memory. But it was tough. But we made it through, and people didn't all leave. Some probably did, but not all of them. And then a couple weeks into January, we'd been searching since June or maybe even May of the year before. January, got an email. Hey, I noticed this position was posted about 6-7 months ago. Have no idea if it's been filled or not. Would love to have a conversation if it's still available. Larry Kruger. At the right time, God brought the right person, but it took our discerning and being patient and really making sure we got the right fit, and we didn't hire just to hire. So that was a hard one though, especially that Christmas was rough, Jason. Anyway.
I joined you for worship last Christmas and realized you need help.
Yes, that's right. Please don't ever sing that song in front of people ever again. So using your networks, pounding the pavement. Sometimes, what I mean by that is maybe talking to other local churches, and maybe they have some in-house talent that doesn't have an opportunity where they are. And you never know. So really look. One of my pastor friends said she's going to even go visit some local bars where musicians play, because you never know. Maybe they're a Christian just filling in, or doing their bar, doing the music for the bar. And who knows, maybe there's a great musician right under your nose somewhere locally that you don't even know about. So anyway, look, and get the word out and do all the things you can do to use your networks. And I think this has been a little bit, maybe one of the more challenging things for us, is to generate a good number of capable, potential candidates for a job.
Yeah, that's so good. And I would just suggest too, if you do go the route to where you're asking people who are in other churches, and you want to know if maybe they'd be interested in a kind of a step up in their career or whatever, just be open and honest and be very, very gracious with them. So don't do the thing. It's happened to me a couple of times when a church will be like, hey, we want to know if you know of anybody who's interested in the senior pastor position.
Yeah.
And
it's code for, are you interested?
Right. And I'll literally give a list of people that I think may be good fits. And they're like, yeah, but will you apply?
Yeah.
I'm like, if you would have told me that up front, I would have told you, I'm not looking right now or whatever. But then also to just be gracious about it. I've also had times when, I've said something like, yeah, I'm not looking right now. And then no response. No.
Right.
And what happens is that has a ripple effect.
Totally.
On maybe my perception of whether or not I'd recommend somebody to them in the future. So just make sure that if you are reaching out to people in other positions at other churches, you're upfront. We're looking to hire. We thought of you. Would you be interested in talking with us?
Yeah.
Just be direct.
I think that's spot on. And I think done graciously, it's not, I don't think it's doing something wrong. You're just presenting an opportunity. And
that's it.
I remember when I was serving as associate pastor, this is way long time ago now, Jason. And a church approached me about an open position. And I went and talked to our senior pastor at the time and said, hey, got this call. My I don't want to go anywhere. I like it here. I want to stay. And he's like, well, maybe you should at least throw your hat in the ring and see what else is out there, because you never know what God might be doing. And I think there was, so I did, and it was actually really clarifying for me, because I ended up staying and feeling called to stay. But that church was really gracious with that whole side of things, knowing that I liked where I was, but also was willing to explore another possibility. And so, I appreciate that. I think that's spot on. Be sensitive and gracious with people if you're approaching folks in other churches. Maybe even go to the pastor, the senior pastor, and say, hey, I don't want to poach anybody from your team, but if you have some folks that are maybe looking for another opportunity or a step up in their career, we have this opening. And
I just think honesty about that is
transparency
really
and honesty
around.
is good.
Yeah.
So get the word out. That's a challenge. There's lots of ways you can hire, search agencies and consultants and stuff to do that if it's a high profile position, or you can just work your networks and keep working them and trust God's timing that He's going to bring the right person in the right time. A third kind of tip or something to suggest is, this is something you and I have done quite a lot of over the years, but kind of looking within the congregation and seeing what untapped talent is there, or those that God might be calling towards some role in ministry and as a staff member in the church. And so kind of using your internal congregation to go, are there people that maybe God could work through for His purpose in a more formal way? A lot of times there are people who are already volunteering, already doing lots of amazing things in the church. And you go, I think they maybe could be a part of our team. So I know you've had success with that, Jason.
Yeah.
And how have you approached those conversations with those folks?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a big fan of this strategy. Mm-hmm. It also has its challenges, mm-hmm. but we've never yet made a bad hire from the people in our own congregation. All of the hires that have been a struggle were people outside the congregation. Mm-hmm. I'll just say that for what it is.
Well, and drill down on that for a second. Why?
Yeah.
Because you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. Right?
Exactly right. So when you hire from within, for the most part, you're hiring people that already are with you on the vision and mission.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. Second, you're usually hiring people because they're already involved in the church. You know them. You've seen them in action in one way or another. Yeah. That's not always the case. We made a hire recently that has turned out to be fantastic, of somebody who we didn't really know that well, but was connected with somebody who's on staff, and was sort of like a fairly regular churchgoer, but not super involved beyond that. Mm-hmm. Turned out to be a great hire. But again, somebody knew this person really well, really good friends with them. It was the right opportunity, so on and so forth. But I think when you hire from within, you have a much better shot at a good fit. They may not have, if you have theological requirements, educational requirements, that's another thing. Mm-hmm. And certainly you could help people get on that track of doing mm-hmm. that. We're doing that as well. Mm-hmm. But I just like it because they're a little bit of a known entity, rather than it feels like kind of you're in the dark on hiring.
Yeah, and the experience question is not a hypothetical. It's I actually kind of know. And you kind of know strengths and weaknesses and wiring and personality and character, competency, and all those things. You're already you have some evidence to look at. So when you're approaching someone from the congregation, are you saying, hey, we're going to create this position for you and it's yours? Or are you inviting them to apply? Or what's that conversation like for you?
Well, for better or worse, my approach is always, I have a job in mind for you. Mm-hmm. And here's what I'm thinking, but this is open to what do you think? What are some thoughts that you have around this? Here's mm-hmm. the problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Here's the ideas around what we're trying to do. And this is why I think you're a good fit. Mm-hmm. Would you have the time or inclination to think about this some more? I'm not a big fan of, because of what I mentioned earlier about hurt feelings. Mm-hmm. I don't love opening to the congregation. Anybody interested, apply. I don't like that. I would much rather, if we have somebody in mind, approach them directly for the position.
Yeah. And I think you got to know your state's employment laws and stuff like that. And
totally.
We're always figuring out what are the rules and how do we do it? And what do we need to put on the job descriptions and all that kind of stuff. And so you got to kind of be aware of that. But I do think there's something important about making sure that the position is a fit, and you can avoid some of those awkward conversations and hurt feelings. If you have something in mind, you're going to create something specifically for someone. I think there's some leeway there that you can use to kind of have a different kind of process. And so just wade into that one. But I think for us, we've tended to hire internally for part-time positions.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
All of our full-timers that were in-house people all became full-timers later.
Because they grew into it over time, right? And so for us, if we're thinking about a full-time position, that's one where you could say, somebody could reasonably move from another part of the country for this role. But for 15 or 20 hours a week, nobody's uprooting their family for that or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're kind of looking within anyway, and it's going to be a local search anyway. So you might as well think about, Lord, who have you already given us that might be a fit for this position that could take the ball and run with it? And who knows where it goes from there? Maybe it grows into something, but you kind of have that opportunity. So I think you and I feel pretty strongly about that one as a really a way to avoid some of the pitfalls of hiring outside. And you don't really know what you don't know until they're there on site doing the work. And if you've already hired them and it's not good, it's too late, and you're going to really pay a price for that. And so the last tip is just to be the kind of people who hire slow, make sure it's a good fit. And there's a couple different ways to put that. You could say, don't settle, or, don't hire a warm body. But go slow and make sure you really get the right person that's going to be the right fit that the Lord is leading you to. And so this is where discernment really comes in. And you want to make sure that you're discerning really well and not getting to a panic point where you're like, we just need someone for the role. And then you hire someone and if you do that and it's not a good fit, you and I know this from experience, it is an excruciating process to undo that bad hire.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's a whole nother podcast conversation. Maybe we need to have sometime, but it takes a lot of time, energy, and resources to undo that, especially if it's a full-time role. But it's hard to undo a hire, and it sets you back, and it leads to painful conversations and not good. So we want to get it right. And so going slow and really making sure, and this is more, I'm preaching to myself right now because we're looking for a few different spots. And I'm like, okay, we really need to fill these roles. So I need to hear that for myself, Jason, but go slow, really discern, Lord, is this the person you're calling to this role? Do they feel called to our vision, mission, culture, values, and direction we're going? Do they have the capacity for this role? Do we sense a vision that they have? And then is this person feeling the same way about us? And is it a good fit all the way around? And just really making sure. And I always go back to that Larry story for this very reason. We had someone that we were ready to offer the job to in November before I had my awkward a cappella moment on a Sunday. and we were getting ready to make the offer, and we were talking as a team. We had flown the candidate in, and he had done a fine job. It was fine. And nobody was jumping up and down, but nobody was like, this is it. And we were like, and he could start before Christmas. And I was like, it seems like everything's there. And I remember our elder, Don, and I just didn't feel settled about it. And we were talking about it with the team. And to that team's credit, they said, if you guys aren't feeling settled about this, we're not going to make this move. We're not going to make this offer because we want to get it right. We want what God wants for this and for that person too. If we hire someone who's not a good fit, it's not going to be good for them. And so we hit the brakes, and we didn't make the job offer. And I'm glad we didn't. It led to what God had in mind. But man, it took a lot of courage to just slow down and keep going with our amazing volunteers. And they made it through Christmas, and it led to some good things. So just a reminder that we're not looking for warm bodies. We're looking for the person who's called to this role, who's going to be effective as a teammate in ministry. So anyway, there's a couple tips. We maybe another time we'll go through the interview process, what that kind of stuff looks like, how to undo a bad hire. Maybe we'll let you lead that one, Jason. We'll go from there.
Well, what's the saying? If you never made a bad hire, you haven't made many hires. So it just kind of happens sometimes, but you could minimize the risk as much as possible. I think this is really important. And I'm going to point people in our show notes Dan Ryland's one of the best in this space
So
that I
good,
know
so
of.
good. Yeah.
He's so good, and he's a great follow. DanRyland.com, and we'll post that on the show notes.
Yeah. In fact, if you listen to this episode, I apologize for anything that we screwed up. You could have done 10 times better because he's so good. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah. And listen, you could always reach out to us, Jason or Jesse at reclaimleader.com. Give us a follow on social. Check us out on our website. And there's all sorts of ways that you can engage with us. And we just hope this is helpful to you and your churches as you're trying to figure out everything.
Sometimes you just need to have a conversation or have a couple emails back and forth with someone who's outside of your situation, help get some clarity on what's the next move and all of that. So glad that we're a part of it with you. Thanks for tuning in. And Jason, always good to talk shop with you.
Yeah. And Jesse, thanks for this topic today. I think this is a really good one and really important to think about. If your church is looking to hire, or maybe you're thinking about maybe we should hire, these are the things to be thinking about. So thanks, everyone. As we say every time, ministry is hard. It is so much better when we do it together. Take care. We'll see you next time.